Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, July 13, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyun. Before we begin, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. COVID-19 cases in South Korea have now surpassed the 1,000 mark for a week. This comes as cluster infections continue, especially with the spread of the highly transmissible Delta strain, accounting for over 60% of variant cases. Next year's hourly minimum wage in South Korea has been set at 9,161, roughly $8, rising 5.1% on year. And BTS's Butter remains on top of Billboard's main singles chart for the 7th week, marking the longest run at #1 for a group since 1995. Our top story this morning, South Korea has now reported more than 1,000 COVID-19 infections every day for 1 week straight. The nation reported 1,150 new cases on Tuesday, 1,097 of which were locally transmitted. 2 more people died of the virus, raising the death toll to 2,046. Authorities warned that this is a very serious situation as the average daily caseload has risen more than 50% compared to the previous week. They also expressed concerns over the highly transmissible Delta variant of the virus, which accounts for 63% of the total variant infections. Meanwhile, more than 5.8 million people have now been fully vaccinated. It would be an understatement to say that the stringent antivirus measures have put a huge dampener on Seoul's usually bustling nightlife. And we wanted to find out how the new guidelines have been received by local vendors and would-be revelers. Kim Hyun-sing went out and follows us this report.
This footage was taken just a few weeks ago at Nogari Alley in Eulji-ro of Seoul's Jongno-gu district. The history of Nogari Alley stretches longer than 3 decades, and during that time, the area was usually full to the brim with visitors looking for a night out at an affordable price. But the busy street scene has since changed.
Usually this street is packed with customers, with tables filling up this entire space here. But on the day that the level 4 measures are starting, the area has gone mostly empty.
Usually, a lot of foreigners would come in teams of 4 or 5. We also had a lot of visitors in couples and groups. But now after 6, we can only accept 2 customers per table, and customers that have come in groups before 6 have to disperse.
On the first day of level 4 social distancing, restaurant staff were sent home early and street vendors have closed up shop. Local vendors worry their livelihoods are being crippled due to the new measures, but they have accepted the necessity of them.
Our pub usually profits the most in summer, so even though I'm fully on board with prevention measures, it is a bit worrying that the social distancing measures have been strengthened at our peak season. But we've changed all the tables so that it can seat 2 people.
And although visitors are scarce, those who have visited the area are trying their best to stick to the new rules.
Since we can't meet more than 2 people at once, I'm just meeting with 1 friend, even though there's more than 2 in our friend group. It is a bit frustrating because we can't enjoy the nightlife, but the measures seem necessary.
With the measures in place for another 2 weeks, many hope that the spike of infections soon abates. Kim Hyun-sing, Arirang News.
More than 99% of Americans who died of COVID-19 last month were unvaccinated. Anthony Fauci, chief medical advisor to the president, said roughly 99.2% of those who died had not been vaccinated, while only 0.8% of deaths were from those who had the shot. He said that no vaccine is perfect, but it is tragic that almost all deaths could have been avoided and prevented. Similar to his comments, the states of Virginia and North Carolina also reported that 99% of their COVID-19 deaths were unvaccinated. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Monday announced a new warning for the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine, saying it's linked to a rare neurological side effect called Guillain-Barré syndrome. GBS is a disorder in which the body's immune system attacks the nerve cells, causing muscle weakness and, in severe cases, even paralysis. The FDA said it has updated labels, noting that available evidence suggests a causal link between the Janssen vaccine and a possible risk of GBS. But that data is insufficient to establish that the vaccine could cause the syndrome. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 100 preliminary cases have been detected after roughly 12.8 million Janssen doses were administered in the U.S. The Biden administration has upheld a Trump-era rejection of nearly all of China's significant maritime claims in the South China Sea, warning Beijing that any attack on the Philippines would draw a U.S. response. Lee Seung-jae has more on that and on China's reaction.
The Biden administration and the former Trump administration may have been deeply at odds over many issues, but China's claims in the South China Sea isn't one of them. On Sunday, the Biden administration upheld a Trump-era rejection, warning China that any attack on the Philippines in the highly contested region would draw a U.S. response under a mutual defense treaty. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says an armed attack on Philippine armed forces, public vessels, or aircraft in the South China Sea would invoke military action from the U.S., reaffirming the position laid out by Trump's top diplomat, Mike Pompeo. The statement also comes ahead of this week's 5th anniversary of an international tribunal's ruling in favor of the Philippines against China's maritime claims around the Spratly Islands and the neighboring reefs and shoals, a ruling Beijing rejects. In response to Blinken's statement, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Monday urged the U.S. to stop hyping up the issue, calling it extremely irresponsible.
It deliberately stokes disputes on territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests, sows discord among regional countries and undermines regional peace and stability. This is extremely irresponsible. China is strongly dissatisfied with and firmly opposed to the wrong act by the U.S. side.
The spokesman added that the U.S. statement also disregards the historical merits and objective facts of the South China Sea issue, violating and distorting international law, and breaks the U.S. government's long-held public commitment of not taking a position on the contested region. He added China will continue to firmly defend its sovereignty, rights, interests, and security in accordance with international law. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
At least 6 people were killed in South Africa on Monday after a riot triggered by the imprisonment of former President Jacob Zuma escalated into violence. According to a police statement, more than 200 people were arrested as violence spread through various parts of Johannesburg. Journalists also had their equipment stolen, and an LG Electronics factory in eastern coastal city of Durban was set on fire. Police also warned that those who use social media to encourage rioting are liable for prosecution. The military have been deployed to help police quell the unrest. South Korea's minimum wage for the year 2022 has been set to roughly $8. The decision, which is a hike of more than 5% on year, was made after considering economic forecasts as well as its effect on business owners and laborers. If finalized in August, the new minimum wage will be observed beginning January. Chang Tae-hyun reports.
Next year's hourly minimum wage in South Korea has been set at 9,161, roughly $8. It's a 5.1% increase on year. The Minimum Wage Commission on Monday announced its decision. The labor side had been calling for a sharp increase from this year's 8,721, around $7.6, but the management side wouldn't budge. The amount of increase has been set based on the country's economic projection, following the Bank of Korea's forecast that the South Korean economy will grow 4% this year. The labor minister will publicly announce the new minimum wage by early August, and it will take effect from January 1st, 2022. Both labor and management can object by requesting a re-evaluation, although this has never happened since the system was introduced. Experts say the final minimum wage was decided considering the situation of both business owners and laborers. With the increased minimum wage, more than 3.5 million people will see their paychecks rise from the turn of the year. Chang Tae-hyun, Arirang News.
UNESCO is expressing strong regret over Japan's failure to fully implement its promises regarding the history of forced labor at areas designated as World Heritage Sites. Our Yoon Jung-min tells us more.
The UNESCO World Heritage Committee said Monday that it strongly regrets that Japan has failed to fully implement its promise to acknowledge its subjection of Koreans and others to forced labor during World War II at the Japanese industrial sites that were designated as World Heritage Sites in 2015. This was in the wording of a resolution the committee is expected to pass next week. Officials at Seoul's foreign ministry say it is quite unusual for the UN agency to use such strong language, and they say they expect this time Japan will take concrete action. The statement from the World Heritage Committee was based on a report by UNESCO and International Council on Monuments and Sites. Last month, those agencies inspected the Industrial Heritage Information Center in Tokyo, a facility Japan had promised would inform visitors that Koreans were forced to perform labor against their will in the 1940s. But the report confirmed that there was insufficient acknowledgement of that fact at the center, and there was no display of honor for the victims either. The World Heritage Committee is now asking Japan to fully take into account a series of requests, which include displaying the full history of the sites and commemorating the victims. It also recommends dialogue with relevant countries and that Japan take into account other model cases. The committee plans to adopt the resolution expressing strong regret over Japan's actions in an online session next week. Once locations are designated as World Heritage Sites, UNESCO checks every 2 years for updates on implementation. Japan must file another updated report to the UN agency by December 2022. Despite Tokyo failing to keep its pledges, it is unlikely that this will lead to Japan's Meiji-era facilities being delisted as the World Heritage Sites. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
K-pop sensation BTS's Butter remained on top of Billboard's main singles chart for the 7th week, marking another milestone for the boy band. Billboard made the announcement on Twitter Monday, saying Butter is again officially #1 on this week's Hot 100 chart. The septet's second English song, following Dynamite, drew 10.8 million US streams and sold 108,800 downloads in the week ending July 8. The song also attracted 29.1 million radio airplay audience impressions in the week. With the latest feat, the song has marked the longest #1 streak achieved by a group since 1995. The group now has reached the pinnacle of the Billboard Hot 100 #1 records list 12 times, with Butter on top for 7 weeks, followed by Dynamite with 3, and Life Goes On and Savage Love with 1 week each. The second edition of South Korea's World Heritage Festival will feature Jeju Island, the only UNESCO Natural Heritage Site in the nation. As part of the festival, the resort island is holding some special programs from October. Our Kim Bo-kyung provides a closer look.
Jeju Island is full of Mother Nature's masterpieces. Most tourists visit the volcanic island for its beaches, but the island also contains a world-renowned natural heritage site.
UNESCO World Heritage is divided into two, natural and cultural. Natural heritage sites are very rare. They need to meet complex standards to qualify and need to be preserved very well. In South Korea, 13 are UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Sites, and only 1 is natural.
The Jeju Volcanic Island and Lava Tubes UNESCO Heritage Site includes 검은 얼음 lava tube system, 한라산 Mountain, and 성산 일출봉 Tuff Cone. For just 17 days in October, the 2021 World Heritage Festival will let visitors enjoy usually restricted parts of Jeju. These include the walking trail from 검은 얼음 to 월정리 Beach, which takes visitors through Jeju's lava tubes.
Baekdu-gu, with its complex passages, is the first lava tube the eruption of 검은 얼음 made, and shows the early formation of lava tubes well. Utsan-jeonggul, one of the natural monuments, is located between Baekdu-gu and Manjang-gul, so it plays a vital role in making the lava tubes whole.
Manjang-gul and Kimyeong-gul were both first designated as natural monuments in 1962, And the excellent condition of Manjanggul means visitors can see traces of the lava, such as a knotted pattern on the ground.
Manjanggul is the longest lava tube in the area, stretching for more than 7 kilometers. Only 1 kilometer is usually open for visitors, but the restricted section will also be opened up during the festival period.
Kimyeonggul is very significant as it shows the characteristics of both lava and limestone caves, and with sand blown in from the beach to cover the entrance. Visitors are able to book the programs from July 13th. 김보경, 아리랑 뉴스, 제주.
Welcome. It's time for The World Now, bringing you some of the most interesting news from around the globe. I'm Ji-young. As their country grapples with both grave economic misery and the pandemic, Cubans took to the streets to hold the largest protests in decades against their communist government. Thousands of angry Cubans gathered on Sunday protesting economic collapse and food shortages, high prices, and the government's handling of the COVID-19 virus.
We are here because of the repression against the people. They're starving us to death. Havana is collapsing. We have no house, we have nothing, but they have money to build hotels.
The demonstrators shouted out freedom and down with the dictatorship, demanding vaccines and the end of starvation as they marched in cities. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel blamed the U.S. trade sanctions in a nationally televised speech, saying that it manifested the economic crisis on the communist-run island. But U.S. President Joe Biden announced his support for the Cuban people, urging the government to hear their people and serve their needs. A rescue operation is underway to save squirrels. In a bid to stop squirrels from dying accidents, a no-vehicle zone has been set up at a college in India's central city of Indore, where high numbers of the animals were being killed by traffic. No four-wheelers are allowed on the campus, and students and staff have to either walk or ride bicycles across the 800-meter stretch of road. According to the school staff, the measures were needed as squirrel deaths started to rise after vehicles started to enter the campus following eased COVID-19 restrictions. Dubai, famous for skyscrapers, also hosts the deepest swimming pool in the world. Divers are invited to explore the sunken city, a pool that reaches depths of 60 meters. The pool, recorded as the deepest by Guinness World Records, is filled with 14 million liters of water, equivalent to roughly 6 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Guests can discover the underwater world below its surface, swimming around multi-themed facilities including a library and underwater arcade. The sunken city opened on Wednesday but accepts divers on an invitation-only basis. Public bookings are set to start at the end of July.
Good morning. Seoul officially had its first tropical night of the season last night, coming 23 days earlier than last year. Well, in Korea, tropical nights are when the temperatures remains above 25 degrees Celsius from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. on the next day. And hot and moist air from the south will continue to bathe regions across Korea, with more regions now under heat wave warnings. So by the afternoon, Daegu will go up to 35 degrees Celsius. Chuncheon, Daejeon, Gyeongju will make it to 34 degrees with on and off sunshine with high strong UV rays today. So on a day like today, we'll have to watch out for heat-related illnesses. The least we can do is drink plenty of water frequently and take regular breaks. Meanwhile, eastern regions could see passing rain in the afternoon with 5 to 60 millimeters of showers in the forecast. Blistering weather will continue with a chance of more passing rain for next few days. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.